What's popping in the streets, everybody? I believe, therefore, I'm King Sylar. Hope you're doing all right today. It's been a little bit of a minute, but we're back with another trending topic, and we got a spicy one for you today. I don't know what has been going on, but I've been trying to get this video shot and out for probably about a month and a half, but it must have just been God's grace and mercy that this video did not come out at the time that it did, or it just simply was not destined to be out. But if you're watching this, that means that the walls or the barriers have been removed and we are able to finally shoot this video. I'm very excited for it. But before we get started, y'all know what to do. I know you may not have heard in a while, but it's still the same thing. Please make sure that you go to the channel and hit the subscribe button right there at the bottom corner right here below you. Obviously, it's going to pop up right there for you. Follow me at King_Sylar on all social media platforms where you can constantly view the content. You can check out some of the peeps dancing, some of the fam. Get in contact with me directly. All my contact information is there for you right there. But let's go ahead and get started with this topic. And obviously, it's a very triggering one. So let's just jump right into it. Where the quality DJs at? Where the quality DJs at? Now, obviously, that sounds like a very interesting header, right? Where are they at? Oh, well, they're right here. They're over here. They're at these events. They're at this event. They're at this event. And I feel you. Yes, I do believe that they're physically there and they're present. But my question is, where are they at? Mainly asking, where's your head at? Because in my personal opinion, from what I've seen, I would say kind of going back and forth probably about the last 2 years, I would say. A little bit, I mean, we did have some hiccups here and there before the pandemic, but obviously that feels like such a long time ago. That is kind of like the great divide, so to speak. It'll go down in American history as like a stopping point. So we're simply just speaking, we're talking from this point on. But I would definitely say, yeah, since the pandemic, I really kind of want to really know where DJs' heads are at. And I'll just keep it short, keep it frank. It's not that I think that the music is just the worst I've ever heard in my life, because I've heard some pretty terrible music when I've visited other cities and states and countries and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, it's not the worst that I've ever heard. But I can definitely say that it has been inconsistent. And I guess that's kind of the question that I wanted to figure out. Where are the DJs at? Where are y'all at? Where's your head circling? And I kind of want to just kick it off as far as this. My personal stance on it. My personal stance as a traditional dancer, I've had to personally humble myself to understand that I am not built for performances. I'm built for battles. Meaning, if the atmosphere does not match battle energy, I'm at a disadvantage. And I feel that's what events are swinging towards now, is for the masses, not necessarily for street or battle culture or dancers as a whole. Now, I get it. We're in a different time frame. Social media has taken street culture and grabbed it by the ankles and just simply whipped it all the way across the entire world. And don't get me wrong, the evolution and the spreading and the communication of just simply cultures, for the most part, I won't say at all times, is a good thing. But I do feel that sometimes it can kind of go really left field. And I kind of feel as though that's where it's gone right now. Now, obviously, some people might kind of looked at my personal stance and, oh, you sound bitter, you sound hurt. Let's just keep it funky for a second. We're dancers. We all wear our emotions on our sleeve and stuff like that. But that's maybe why this video took so long, because I needed to take time to humble myself. And I genuinely did. I had to take a step back and say, okay, is the music just simply bad to be bad, or am I just simply upset because maybe, I didn't win a jam or whatever the case may be? And that's not the case, because I've won a couple of jams since we've gotten back from the pandemic and lost a few as well. That's never an issue. I'm 16 years into this, losing doesn't affect me anymore. It stopped affecting me, honestly, after my 5th or 6th year. As long as I do good, people know me, hey, if I have a great battle or I have a great round and I still lose, I'm cool with that. I would much rather lose doing great than win because all of my opponents were trash. It's not very honorable in my mind. I know it's old school, but that's I enjoy that personally for me. But I genuinely did have to humble myself and take a look at it and say, okay, what's the real problem here? Like, what's the issue? Like, why is it just simply not clicking? And it is exactly what it is, as I've said it. Like, nowadays when we look at jams, and obviously this is kind of a lot more directed towards open style jams, is that they don't really feel like battles anymore. They feel like performances, because we see all these different types of hurdles that are presented, different styles, whether it's 2-on-2, whether it's 1-on-1, whatever the case may be, whether there are themes to it and stuff like that. It has transitioned, like battles have transitioned into performances. And we used to kind of crack jokes like this back in the day before the pandemic, for all of y'all that remember Song Session. But I always used to get on to the people that kind of came out of there, and I'd be like, hey guys, this is called a session, not sit down and let me perform. Because that's what it was for a while. And I get it, like that served a purpose. It was meant for people to come in and have a safe space to learn how to freestyle. But it got to a point to where it was like, okay, we're not really sessioning, or we're not ciphering anymore. Obviously, sessioning is kind of more like you go to the session and you cipher at the session, so to speak. And really, you cipher at clubs and stuff like that. That's where it was, or in the street. That's where that's from. But actually going to physically creating an environment to where we're just going to cipher, that's called a session. I know Crumbs, we session because we're not all dancing in multiple areas at one time. It's usually one at a time. So, but you get what I'm saying. So it just personally, in my opinion, it kind of seems like now more than ever, the atmosphere of battle culture isn't battle culture anymore. It's performance based. And obviously we see the events, I'm not going to give any of these people attention and stuff like that, but we know these big events that we're seeing across the entire nation, that where it's just like, okay, you are purposely setting up these events for people to battle, but then you're also not creating an environment in which these people can actually battle. If you're playing tracks that are much more designed for a performance, or maybe a slow, intimate session or something like that, or maybe a lab, how is it exactly that you were supposed to expect these people to, my special phrase, artistically disarm each other or battle each other? Don't get me wrong, it can still be friendly. It doesn't have to be super aggressive, but there needs to be a certain level of attack, in which I tell people in the music. There has to be a certain level of energy. If everything is very slow down and all these 808s and stuff like that, or all these lo-fi hip-hop tracks, or these very emotional beats and stuff like that, it's not going to work. And it's clearly shown that it's not going to work. And whether you guys want to admit it or not, don't get me wrong, all the real freestylers, we're smart about it. Like, we know, okay, hey, this is not to prove that, this is where I go to prove that I'm a hardcore battler. Majority of the time, it's just like, I'm just going out here to get my name out. And that was what one of my peers told me. Is that, hey, if you're going to go get involved in this particular event, don't focus on trying to win. Focus on just getting your name out there, networking, communicating with people, because that's how the community is going to grow. Then you can start to kind of putting out your message, so to speak. But ultimately, I know it's it's kind of a balance. If we're being realistic, it's kind of a collective effort between the event and the DJs. But somewhere there, the DJs kind of got off point and said, okay, well, I'm just going to start playing this type of music. And then you kind of started noticing a little bit of like uneasiness or awkwardness from the dancers. Definitely, I know from dancers that have been dancing like over 5 to 6 years. We can definitely tell the shift as far as like the music, like, hey, why am I sitting here dancing to, this emotional R&B or neo soul track? This is not battle music. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to battle. Like, I want to battle. I want to go at this person, but I can't do that if this person's talking about intimately touching their body or whatever the case may be, or vividly expressing their emotions in a very slow, methodical way. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So here's some of the problems that I'm definitely seeing directly. I see that the diluting of music is what's happening. Obviously, I just addressed that. The music is it's just not it. Like, this is not battle music. This is not street culture music. And before anybody says like, oh, well, it's evolving, it's growing, and I feel that, I understand that. But let me kick it to you like this. You're not going to go into a traditional ballroom class environment, whatever the case may be, and then turn on a little Uzi Vert and say like, oh, it's evolving, it's, you know, it's all this, it's growing, it's expanding and stuff like that. In my personal opinion, there are some traditions that do need to be held. And when it comes to the music, that's really important. That's not to say that you cannot play different genres of music. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that we do need to make sure that the music that is being played does fit the environment for people to feel the need, like for dancers to be able to say, okay, I can get down to this. I can do something with this. If I have to sit here, which is a situation I've had in the past, to where if a track comes on and it's just kind of like, this is a terrible track, I don't want to go. You go. Oh no, you go. I don't like this track. Like that happens all the time. Like nowhere ever in the history has there ever been a situation where a track has been fire. And I mean, just like, this is a really good track and both dancers are just gonna like, nah, we're just gonna pass up on the track. No, it's usually only when most cases where two people are really nervous and they don't want to go first, but mainly because like the song is just not good. It doesn't encourage you. It doesn't trigger you to move. And that's what DJs are supposed to be doing. And I feel like they are not doing that at this point. Second thing, I've personally heard this. I think DJs are afraid to take risk or they're closed-minded. Oh, well, I do this, so I'm going to play this type of music. I remember I asked this one person one time, like, you know, hey, oh, that track was fire. Can you play that again? And we were just in a cool environment. Like, there was nobody there. We were just in this space, and it was just like me and two other people that were in there. And I said directly, hey, can you play that track again? That track was fire. And the response was, are you paying me? And I was like, motherfucker, what? Like, there's three of us in here, nigga. Don't get fly with me, bro. Like, there's nobody in here, bruh. We're not at a club. We're in a studio. And you don't pull a power trip card on me because you're DJing. Like, it's just like that closed-mindedness is like, okay, like you don't want to hear that that's a really good track. And then you also don't want to be told to do. So therefore, you go on this power trip and then all of a sudden I'm gonna do what I want. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me anything or otherwise. Like, okay, that's a sign, that's a direct sign that, okay, you need to stay away from DJing. Understand that you DJing, you are a community servant. The same as far as the leaders. You're hired for us. The same way as far as we need you to move, you need us to move so that way we keep bringing you back and we keep paying you so that you can keep doing a good job. So we don't exist without each other. So please, like, leave that arrogance out. Another problem, paying attention to the event music and not the dancers. So stop going to events and looking at the music that's being played. Look at the dancers. If you don't see them moving, don't play it. It's pretty cut and dry. I'm sorry, but I'm going to use this as an example only because, with all due respect, it's not my generation, but it was the generation before me because I was born in '89. But as far as like, I love Erykah Badu to death, but stop playing Erykah Badu at jams. Remix, revise, whatever the case may be, the original versions. Erykah Badu does not have any tracks that you can battle to. Authentically battle to, like really get down to. And if you do find one, you can be like, okay, yeah, but this will work in this environment, but it's supposed to be a collective. Like, we should all be able to move to this. I'm not saying that just, oh yes, obviously, Sylar, we're not all going to be able to move because this person may not be as well as adapting as you. I'm just simply saying that at the very least, 50 to 60% of the room should be like, oh, this track is fire. I love Erykah Badu. It's like one of the best R&B and neo soul artists that I've ever heard in my life. One of the GOATs without question, in my personal opinion. But her music does not work for a battle environment. Like, stop playing her. Remix, revise, whatever the case. And that's just a small example of what I'm talking about. That don't work. It doesn't make sense for you to be playing those tracks at an event. We're trying to battle here. Not flow and exchange and do all those crazy intimate words and stuff like that y'all like to do in closed sessions. That's fine there, but it's not here. We got 45 seconds to make something happen. I ain't got time. Let's go. Number one biggest thing as well, like I said before, stop playing remix and revised versions of tracks. Just do your research. Go find the original. I'm sorry, for me, in my personal opinion, that's the cheapest way for DJs to cop out to actually doing research to music. Instead of actually going to find music, you just simply going to SoundCloud, or you're going to all these other links, and you're looking for remixed versions of tracks instead of actually going and looking for music. Like, go do your research. Sometimes the original is better than the remixed. Like I said before, I love Erykah Badu. I don't want to hear a remixed version of her music because I know what it's supposed to be in my mind. Some stuff just needs to stay in certain spaces. Okay? Simple as that. But just as some helpful solutions to that one, I'm not just ranting the entire time. 1, DJs. Get at least 3 different genres of music and have them a large library of them. Be proficient at playing them. 3. Again, as I said, I'm not saying that, like, okay, even though he's kind of played out, but Usher's got some battle tracks that could work. High energy, maybe not necessarily battle tracks. Okay, you can hip hop always works, and then maybe if you're good as far as for house music. Okay, you know, there's no such thing as popping music, but you can funk, soul, R&B, G-funk, like the list goes on and on. Like, just be proficient at least 3 genres of music and keep building off of that. It's a lot easier for you to get called back for jams if you follow that plan, that course of action, that blueprint. Just be proficient at 3. Not just 1, but 3. If you're gonna DJ battle events and it's not specifically for a particular genre of dance, gotta be versatile. But that doesn't mean that your library doesn't need to be on point. Secondly, take dancers through a time machine. I've said this before. Hypothetically, let's just simply use crump as an example. Obviously, crump music has evolved and it sounds more intense. It's much more unorthodox and abstract, and people can't necessarily catch on to it. But you don't, just because you want to play crump music doesn't mean that you should always jump back to Ante Up, or you shouldn't go back to Rise, or you shouldn't always go back to the K3 anthems. My crumpers know what I'm talking about. Take us through a time machine. There's more music than what you can find on YouTube, because those tracks came out like all before 2010. Ante Up is from the 90s. And it's not even technically a crump track, it's hip hop. So take us through a time machine, like jump all over the place. If you find this really dope, I don't know, play the Bee Gees or something like that. Okay, cool, then jump forward, then you're gonna play Usher. Okay, then jump somewhere else again, and then you play another different genre of music. It's that simple. Just move around. Don't just stay in one place. Don't get stuck in the Lil Wayne era to the Drake era. Like, there's more to music than just simply that 10-year gap. Okay? Go to events outside of open style jams. Go listen to other music at other jams. Go to breaking jams. Go to popping jams. Go to house jams. Go to crump sessions. Go to sessions. Go to where the clubs where people are ciphering at and stuff like that. You really want to get a good variety of music? Go find that. Okay, go there. Go where the dancers are actually dancing. Don't just simply play the top 100 music tracks that you hear on the radio and think, oh, this is going to get them jumping. Again, stop cheating. Do the work. And then lastly, pay DJs. Obviously, we need to pay DJs. Pay the DJs what they're worth, and guess what? They will always do a great job. That way they won't ever feel gypped. And of course, DJs now, know your personal strengths and weaknesses. Okay? If you're not a battle DJ, don't do it. If you're bad at ciphering music, because obviously ciphering music is different from battling, don't do it. Okay? If you're good at clubbing, or you don't know how to play good after party music, then guess what? Don't do it. But all these things, in my personal opinion, I think that you should work in those spaces. If you are weak at any of those things, practice it in your own time. But don't use dancers' times to come here and experiment when we're wasting our money on paying to get in and battling, and now all of a sudden you want to use us as a science project. I personally take that as disrespect. This is not the time for you to figure out what you can and can't do. You should have that shit in order before you come here. So that's just my stance on it. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the subscribe button. I hope this triggers you, and more so, I hope you learn something from it. Let's talk about it. Peace.